Hey there, Saki here from Saki Tech. In today's video, we will do a full comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge versus the newly released Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. So as you know, the S6 was released in April 2015 and the S7 on March 2016. Now S6 Edge, even today, is a well-designed, gorgeous phone that packs a powerful punch even with its early 2015 specifications. With the release of S7, people are asking questions like, is it worth upgrading to the more expensive S7 Edge from the S6 Edge, or shall I get the S6 Edge or the S7 Edge, or even how much better is the S7 Edge, a little bit or too much? In this video, we will answer all these questions and more and give you a precise conclusion. So let's dive right in. Let's start off with the build and design. And let me just say one thing. Both of these phones are absolutely gorgeous. S6 and S7 are meticulously crafted out of metal and glass with no trace of plastic. The bezel of these phones is all magnesium alloy, whereas the front and back panel of the phones are built using Corning Gorilla Glass, which is one tough piece of glass with best-in-class durability and scratch resistance. Now what makes these Edge smartphones uniquely beautiful is the curved glass on each side on the front. The curvature seamlessly blends into the metal rims. The slight design difference between the S6 and S7 is that the S7 Edge has curves on the edges of rear glass panel as well, while the S6 Edge has a full flat rear glass panel. It's not a big deal, but some people say it fits better in your hand. As for button and port placement, everything has remained the same. The final result of all this curvy metal glass construction are two smartphones that look like a rock star and feel like $1 million. Both the S6 Edge and the S7 Edge will satisfy your thirst for build and beauty, hence we don't have a winner in this category. Now let's quickly talk about water resistance. While the S6 Edge has no resistance against water, the S7 Edge has a pretty solid IP68 grade water resistance. You can basically submerge this phone in up to 5 feet of water for 30 minutes and it will come out with no water damage. Of course, you're not going to do that. What you are going to do is fearlessly pull your S7 Edge to take a call, answer a text message, check the weather, and even take a photo while it is actually raining, with no worries. So just think about that and think how important that feature is for you. It should definitely affect your buying choice. Finally, all the metal and glass leaves you with a very slippery phone that could glide out of your hands and onto the floor. You probably do not want that in your life, so a protective case or a skin is highly recommended, which will unfortunately hide the true beauty of these gorgeous phones. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about the processor, memory, and storage. So the S6 Edge is a powerful device. It sports a 64-bit Exynos 7420 octa-core processor. Octa stands for 8. First set of 4 of the cores are clocked at 2.1 GHz and the second set are clocked at 1.5 GHz. You also get 3 GB of RAM, which is a lot for a smartphone. S7 Edge, however, is absolutely faster. There will be 2 processor options based on the market. US, Chinese, and Japanese markets will be getting a powerful 64-bit quad-core Snapdragon 820 processor clocked up to 2.2 GHz, while the European and Asian markets will get a powerful 64-bit Exynos 8890 octa-core processor. Again, you got 8 cores, 4 at 2.3 GHz and the other 4 at 1.6 GHz. S7 Edge will sport a whopping 4 GB of RAM. Now on top of the processor improvements, the S7 Edge brings back the cherished feature of micro SD expandable storage. You can buy a 32 GB S7 Edge with the ability to add an additional 200 GB of extra storage using an SD card. I love this, as you can separate all your music, movies, and photos from your main storage. Now this is a major feature and should affect your buying decision, as the S6 Edge does not offer a micro SD slot. If you buy a 32 GB S6 Edge, you're stuck with that capacity for the life of your ownership. So there we go. Faster processor, more memory, and expandable storage. We do have a winner. Let's move on to dimensions. Of course, at the end of this video, we will do a processor and memory benchmark and we will see which one is in fact faster and by how much. Let's get some numbers. The S7 Edge measures 142.1 mm in height. It is 70.1 mm wide and 7.0 mm thick. It only weighs 132 grams. Now the S7 Edge measures 150.9 mm in height, 72.6 millimeters wide and 7.7 millimeters thick and weighs 157 grams. Now looking at the raw numbers, the S6 Edge seems to win. but that's actually not true. If you haven't already noticed, the S7 Edge has a larger screen, and a larger screen translates to higher dimension. Bottom line here is that both phones are slim, sexy, and featherweight. I have stopped caring about phone sizes since a couple years ago because even the heaviest flagship phone nowadays is featherweight and paper thin. Also, as you will learn in a little bit, the battery in the S7 Edge has a higher capacity as well, so that adds to the overall weight. Alright, so let's move on to the screen resolution, PPI, and the quality. Now the S6 Edge has a 5.1-inch screen with a resolution of 1440 by 2560, and that translates to 577 pixels per inches. Now the S7 Edge has a larger 5.5-inch screen with a resolution of 1440 by 2560 pixels, just like the S6, and it has 534 pixels per inches. Both phones use Super AMOLED technology, so you get deep blacks, great contrast, and rich, vibrant colors. Both of these displays are one of the best displays on the market. You cannot go wrong with either one. Display quality should not be a deciding factor. However, the display size, which is now bigger, might play a role in your decision. If you like more screen real estate, the S7 Edge might be a better choice. On both phones, we have the latest version of Android Marshmallow with Samsung TouchWiz overlay. If you have an S6 Edge and you haven't received Marshmallow update yet, you will get it soon. So we will assume that both phones are running Marshmallow for this comparison. As such, there isn't much of a difference in the overall experience. However, the S7 Edge does feel slightly faster and snappier, which comes at no surprise because it has faster internals. And let's not forget about Android. You get all the perks of Android, namely extensive customization and personalization, so you can tweak the look of your software experience to your own sense of style. You are also able to download and install various themes, so that will change the look of your phone completely. Now here's what S7 has that the S6 doesn't. You have better Edge functionality, and you also have what's called an always-on display. Next up, let's take a look at the camera. We have a tough comparison here. On the one hand, we have the S6 Edge with a 16 megapixel rear camera with an aperture of f1.9. On the other hand, we have the S7 Edge with a 12 megapixel rear camera with an aperture of f1.7. Both these cameras are world class. But there are two things you will get on the S7 Edge that will be significantly better. You will get stupid fast autofocus due to the new dual pixel image sensor, and number two, you will get better low light photos due to the larger aperture of f1.7 and faster autofocus. Now those are just facts, but it is imperative to understand that the S6 Edge camera is an absolute success. It takes sharp and gorgeous photos, but so does the S7 Edge, but it does it faster and it takes better low light photos. That's the big difference. Now as for video, you will be able to record in 1080p at 30 or 60 frames per second, and also in 4K in 30 frames per second on both phones. You also get some slow motion options such as 120 frames per second at 720p on the S6, which has been bumped to 720p at 240 frames per second on the S7. And of course, being that the S7 Edge is the newer device, you also get some software enhancements that will give you some extra features such as stabilized time-lapse videos. And finally, on the front, we have 5 megapixel cameras on each phone with an aperture of f1.9 on the S6 and f1.7 on the S7. If you like to take selfies at nighttime, this might be of use. I personally don't care. So let's move on and talk about the battery life and some charging features. So the S6 Edge has a 26 mAh battery, and the S7 Edge has a 36 mAh battery. Huge difference in battery capacity translates to a longer battery life. S6 Edge honestly doesn't have such a great battery life. It drains fast, and under heavy use it will be gone before the day is over. But the 3600 mAh battery in the S7 Edge will give you a full day of life under medium to heavy use. Additionally, both phones have amazing software features such as Ultra Power Savings Mode that transforms your smartphone into a black and white bare minimum device only good for calling, texting, and other basic functions such as the calendar and calculator. You cannot watch movies, cannot play games, no fancy media, just the basics. If this setting is enabled, you can have a full day of charge just on 10% battery. Now both devices offer wireless charging, but the S7 Edge actually offers fast wireless charging, which the S6 doesn't. So if you're charging wirelessly, S6 will take approximately 3 hours to charge from 0 to 100%, while the S7 will take approximately 2 hours. And finally, both devices offer super fast wired charging, which charges these phones from 0 to 100 within an hour. You just have to make sure that you use the included wall charger adapter to get the maximum charging speed. So let's move on and talk about the fingerprint sensor. And we don't have any complaints here. Both phones offer super fast touch to unlock fingerprint sensors that work with a 99% accuracy every single time. It is easy to set up, easy to use, and fast to unlock. We cannot ask for anything more. Alright, so as we have said earlier, let's do a quick benchmark comparison between these two phones using the Geekbench benchmarking tool, which simulates real-world scenarios to stress test these devices to their absolute maximum. Okay, so as you can see, we're running the test right now, and we're going to fast forward to the end to check the results. The results are in. As you can see, the S7 Edge is faster, which was expected because it has in fact a newer and faster processor, but observe that the S6 Edge is not that slow either. Let's move on. So finally, let's do a meaningful conclusion by listing firstly what has actually improved in the S7 Edge, and then we will look at what hasn't improved at all. So let's list all the improvements. We have a faster processor and more RAM. We have expandable storage that allows for an additional 200 gigabytes of storage via a micro SD card. We have IP68 certified water resistance, which, as we have said, is great. You also get a large 3600 milliamp hours battery that will make a huge difference in battery life. And of course, a new camera with significantly faster autofocus and significantly better low light performance. Now let's take a look at what hasn't improved or remained almost the same. The design and build is mostly the same. Both phones look gorgeous. You have similar battery management features such as ultra power savings mode, and you have charging features such as wireless charging and fast wired charging. You have the same screen, the same world-class screen quality and high resolution. S7 Edge actually has less pixels per inches due to its larger 5.5-inch screen. So technically the S6 Edge has a sharper display. And also both phones are lightweight, they're both slim, and you get a similar software experience. Now, based on those observations, do I think you need to upgrade to an S7 Edge? It truly depends on your needs. Are the improvements that I listed worth it? Carefully review them and make a decision. Just remember that the following 3 new features on the S7 Edge should carry a lot of weight in your buying decision: the water resistance, the expandable storage via the SD card, and the large battery. If those 3 things are very important, then the choice is clear. Otherwise, the S6 Edge will satisfy your thirst for a top-of-the-line phone with no problems. And don't worry too much about the camera. Now, the S7 has faster autofocus and better low-light performance, but the S6 Edge still is a world-class smartphone camera, so don't let the camera improvement sway you too much, unless you specifically want a better low-light camera. Alright, so thank you for watching this video. Leave comments and concerns below. Let me know which phone you choose and share why with everybody. And of course, subscribe to Saki Tech and give this video a thumbs up. Have a great day.